the Nation address. That's what we are expecting will take place tonight at the Cape Town City Hall. President Cyril Ramaphosa delivering his first State of the Nation address for the 7th administration, but also under government of national unity. And I guess that theme then, finding itself into the theme of tonight's SONA, which has been coined a nation that works for all. And that is the theme that the presidency has said will encompass the State of the Nation tonight, a nation that works for all. I wonder, what will it take for South Africa to be a nation that works for all? And how does that position then what the president has to say tonight in his State of the Nation address? What will also make tonight different, of course, is the fact that the speech by the president will bring in different inputs and voices of different political parties, which would be different to what has happened previously. Of course, there have been consultations under the medium-term development plans and also the cabinet lekgotla that we saw take place in the last couple of weeks. So certainly it is a speech that seems to have sought the input of various parts of government. I wonder how different the feel of the State of the Nation address is also going to be. You know, usually what would happen, of course, is that you'd have the president delivering his address, and afterwards you get all of this reaction from opposition parties who, are tearing that speech apart, lambasting different sections of it, talking about how it didn't live up to expectation, they needed more on this, that, or the other. Is that going to be the same tonight? Given the number of opposition parties that form part of this government of national unity, will you just have lone voices on outside the City Hall post that speech who are critical and who perhaps are largely dissatisfied with whatever it is that the president might say? So, a nation that works for all is what you can expect. Will you be tuning in to the SONA tonight? Are you going to be intentional about watching it? Love to hear from you on that issue. And I think the other issue, of course, that is becoming something we cannot, not that we have ignored it, but it's becoming something that is pushing for us to perhaps look at a bit more deeply. Of course, is coming out of the US, right? And just earlier this week, we were talking about the US and, the threat to cutting all future funding to South Africa. And overnight, it seems to have gone up a gear, right? The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, saying that he won't be attending the G20 foreign ministers meeting in Nasrec. That is scheduled to take place towards the end of the month, on the 20th and the 21st. And one wonders, right, why South Africa is on the US's radar to the extent that it seems to be. Why is all of this happening? And why is it happening now? What are the US's interests in this country that are pushing it to take this particular position? But also, are we to read part of what is being said as a signal? This is signaling a shift in the US foreign policy towards South Africa. If you look at what Marco Rubio said, right, he says, South Africa using the G20 to promote solidarity, equality, sustainability, and they're against that. And one just has to ask, well, when have the words solidarity, equality, sustainability, when did they become swear words? When did they become controversial? When did they become words that cause a diplomatic fallout? So there's something going on here. What do you think is going on? Earlier on Morning Brief, my colleague Thulasizwe Similani spoke to Peter Attard Montalto, who's Managing Director and Global Lead for Capital Markets, Political Economy and Just Energy Transition at Kotram. And this is what he had to say. And I really think that it will be worthwhile to take into consideration Peter's comments around what is happening, questions around what is driving it, and most importantly, what we should do.
For now, we don't really know what Donald Trump wants from South Africa. It is not that clear at all. Why, for instance, he would want the expropriation bill changed. Obviously, it doesn't affect the US citizens. I think we need to not discount the fact that a large part of this is probably performative. You'll have seen the tweets overnight from Secretary of State Marco Rubio now saying he won't attend the foreign ministers meeting in Nasrec in a couple of weeks' time. Saying it's because South Africa is going after DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, because of its G20 agenda. There are some performative elements of this, which I think make it very hard for South Africa, and is why ultimately South Africa does need to stand its ground, I think, to a great degree, and not try and sort of buckle in the face of probably quite an uncertain onslaught.
Peter Attard Montalto there. What does the US President Donald Trump want from South Africa? Do you have any answers to that question? What might he want? I'll take your calls on 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. On the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. It is your national roundtable coming up in the second hour of the show. Municipal Watch. It is a Thursday. We'll be taking a look at our really struggling municipalities, right? Tonight being the State of the Nation address, can we have expectations around a turnaround for municipalities, and why are municipalities being allowed to slide further and further into disarray, right? There must be some national plan. There has to be some national impetus for something different to happen in municipalities. So we'll look at that for the second hour of the show. And then the final hour then will focus on the State of the Nation address, and we'll be joined by the Secretary of the NCOP, Professor Dirk Kotzer, who is a political analyst, and we'll also have a representative of Youth Capital that represents young people to then unpack what it is that their expectations are. So that's what you can expect coming up on the show over the next 3 hours. We kick it off with the roundtable. Your open line 086 000 2032 is the number to dial. On the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. Let's get the conversation going.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? At Specsavers, get a free pair of branded prescription sunglasses up to 3,200 Rand. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Don't miss out. Make every day a payday with the guaranteed 1 million Rand Daily Lotto jackpot that's waiting to be won. From just 3 Rand, play Daily Lotto now for your chance at the guaranteed 1 million Rand jackpot. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old and play responsibly. E2 is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Hi, I'm Khomotso Cathy Mohlahlana, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, Cathy Mohlahlana.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Let's start off this morning in Cape Town. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes.
I would like to talk about sauna and what I'm expecting tonight.
Go ahead.
Okay. Ma'am, with all the dark cloud that is over the parliament right now, the state of the nation, to me, as a citizen, and following the happenings of South Africa, I feel that there is no hope in the message. When I get a message from somebody as to the state of what's going on, I need hope for the next 4 years or for the next 3 years. I need hope for the leader, from the leader. And in the saunas tonight, I'm not expecting any hope. This guy still has to sort out a lot of problems that has arisen through his administration. So for me, as a citizen, I'm not expecting a speech of hope.
So Kevin, even a theme that says a nation that works for all doesn't give you any sense that, you know, there will be a sense of nationhood coming together.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. You're speaking from your perspective. You must give us the chance to give our opinion, like it says. Your station says the opinions and the ideas of whatever's being said is not from the station. Now, I want you to allow my opinion to be aired in the sense that you give me the right to tell my feelings about sauna. That's all. Don't correct me, because I'm not here to be corrected.
Kevin, I'm not trying to correct you. I am engaging you.
I hear you. I hear you with big respect, ma'am. I hear you with big respect. This is where we have a problem in South Africa. We have a problem where people feel that their perspective of everything is their way of life. They don't have empathy. They don't feel for us. And that is exactly what is happening with the U.S. relationship with South Africa. Sorry that I have to jump in because I'm trying to put everything in one bag here, quickly. Now, when it comes to the Reform Act, America is taking part in it is because somebody went to them and said, we can't go on like this. There is issues going on. Firstly, there is one side of this government that is threatening people with the Land Reform Act, like the EFF. They have been saying that they're coming to Stellenbosch, they're coming to Cape Town to take away this land. I do understand very carefully and very intelligently that they have no right to do that party. But they speak for the government. That is inciting an unsettled feeling to landowners. If you know what the price of 1 acre of land, imagine me owning 100 acres of land and then hear from some political party that is against white people tell us that we're coming to take your land. Now, I do understand the Land Reform Act. I do understand the intelligence behind the Land Reform Act. But using it from a different perspective to incites anxiety to landowners. It is not fair. So, as much as we've been discussing this point about taking away our land without compensation, I know what the South African government is saying. They're saying that we're not doing what is being said. But how do we believe you? How do we have a stand on what you're saying if nobody protects us? However, there is this guy, Donald Trump, that has a hand in our relationships. In a sense, he can't dictate to South Africa, but he can cut the hand that feeds South Africa through his government. And I think that is the leverage we need when people become arrogant in South Africa, when people start using race against race. And the thing that, I've never heard this on your station, the thing that irritates a person more than anything else is to bring up a topic that has not been asked to come into the situation, like reverse apartheid. There is reverse apartheid happening everywhere on a day-to-day basis. Black people are taking advantage of minority groups. This should not happen.
So you say that there's reverse racism where who's taking advantage of who?
Yes, black people are taking advantage of white people because they feel they are higher than white people now. We are all born equal.
Yeah, Kevin, you know some of these issues, when we're talking about them, yes, perceptions, about how we perceive what is happening are important, but we must also look at some of the facts that are before us, right? Those also, there's a role that those also have to play. So you talk about the fact that there are all of these threats and rhetoric by political parties around taking land without expropriation. But at the same time, you also know that South Africa has very well-functioning courts. There is law in this country that prevents that from happening, which is why it does not happen.
This discussion towards the way you want the people to hear you.
I'm not shifting the discussion. I'm engaging you, Kevin. I'm engaging you. Let's engage. You have said what you wanted to say, and I'm engaging you.
No, I've not completed. You are cutting me short. You want to direct.
You don't have all day, Kevin. You also don't have all day. There are other listeners that are on the line, and this is not an opportunity for a soliloquy. This is not a Shakespeare theater performance. What you need, what it is an opportunity for us to engage on matters, not for you to have your say and then hang up when you're done. Kevin? All right. So, okay. Well, Kevin, call us back because I do want to continue to engage you on some of the things that you're saying. Tushani, you're in Witbank. Good morning.
Morning, Cathy. Yeah, shortly, I want to talk about the UIF and the bitter experience that I got there. To cut the long story short, I had this old lady from Mamelodi who was working in my house at Mutetema from 2010 to 2023. And the whole of last year, she was struggling to go to the offices of UIF to claim the little that she could get there. Seeing that she's not winning, I also went to their offices in Witbank. The personnel there, they gave me the numbers to phone. I phoned this gentleman on numerous occasions. And the gentleman now is telling me, no, he is not responsible for payments or what. What he is responsible for is to ensure that the employer complies. I said, but equally so, you should be undertaking responsibility to ensure that UIF also comply, or at least give me the number that which I can phone. At one stage, the lady went to Pretoria, Beneboom, wherein I was also phoned. Telephonically, I gave them the information that they needed from me, and I was made, they assured me that, okay, everything is fine. That was last year. Then they told the lady as well that everything is fine, we can see your name is on the system, the money is there, it's fine. She went home to Atteridgeville, but after a week or so, she got an SMS saying decline. And it doesn't even say decline because of what. I started to phone this gentleman again. Even this year on the 21st of January, I phoned him from 8:50 to 8:54. The gentleman said, no, the challenge here is that we can't see the information regarding how much the lady was earning per month. I said, no. I had those documents on my table, and I emailed them to you. You confirmed everything was there. Can I resend them to you? The gentleman said, okay, I'll SMS you the email. But I said, why do you SMS? Give me the email address. I'll write it down and email those documents. I since waited. Yesterday, I phoned him again. He says, now he can't remember promising to send an email to me. He says, no, he's not responsible for payments and stuff. The people that are responsible are there, that at Danebo, Mamelodi, Huma. I said, at least give me their landline so that I can phone them and assist the lady. So I was getting, I have two suspicions here. It's just my suspicion. I'm not saying this is what is happening. My main worry number one is that the majority of these people that are with the UIF are either elderly or some of them might not have gone to school that much. And if these people, their offices, their personnel there, or the system itself is not user-friendly for people to can claim the money, the little money that is there, then I begin to suspect that there could be corruption that is going on, because they told her if certain number of days or months pass by, she will end up forfeiting her money.
Okay. Tushani, let's do this. I'm going to put you back through to Kanya, who's on the desk this morning, because it does seem like an issue that we can follow up with, particularly with the UIF. And again, it's the level of attention, and care that is applied by administrators. So much rises and falls on just their ability to do what they need to do. So we'll certainly try and get some assistance. It's time for your latest news headlines.
Good morning. In the headlines, Basic Education Minister Siviwe Khwakhobe says she's eager to hear government's plans to grow the economy and create jobs when President Cyril Ramaphosa delivers his State of the Nation address this evening. The KwaZulu-Natal government says the Climate Change Response Fund, which President Ramaphosa spoke about in his 2024 State of the Nation address, has not yet been established. And the French arms manufacturer Thales, co-accused in former President Jacob Zuma's multi-billion rand arms deal corruption trial, has filed an application in the High Court in Pietermaritzburg. I'll have details on these and other stories at 10.
Are you looking for the best spectacle and sunglass deal? With Specsavers buy one get one offer, you get great value for money. You know you can trust us with over 350 stores nationwide. Get a free pair of branded prescription sunglasses up to 3,200 rand when you purchase a comprehensive eye test and spectacle frame with lenses on your first pair. Choose from top brands like Police, Hugo, Tommy Hilfiger, Carolina Herrera and more. There really is no reason to go anywhere else. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Reigning champions and log leaders Masanda Wana have a massive task to deliver maximum points to Core Cup.
But the Buccaneers are eyeing the top spot. They want to paint the capital city in black and white. Miguel Cardoso is up against Jose Rivero. Ukhono Zokhala. This is the Betway Premiership. Witness Mzansi's beautiful game. Mamelodi Sundowns FC versus Orlando Pirates FC. This Saturday, 8 February at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and 3:30 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Santam can cover your car in just 2 minutes. That's faster than sticking to your New Year's resolution to eat healthy, then immediately reaching for the leftover pizza in the fridge and deciding it's a reward for surviving day one. Get your car covered in just 2 minutes so you can live in the moment, not in the worry. Visit santam.co.za. Santam, this is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
Good morning to you and your listeners. This is Philip here. The answer to your question is that the US is an ally of Israel, and South Africa took Israel to the World Court, and they're not happy with this. So only the Minister of Foreign Affairs at the time can reply on the reasons why they did that and who actually sponsored the cost. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Good morning, Sis Cathy and your producer and all the listeners of SAFM. Sis Cathy, I'd like to talk about Mr. President. Today I'm expecting him to talk about creating jobs, because most of youth, they are not working. Some of them, they have qualifications, but they sit at home drinking alcohol because of their stress. Yeah, so, and also there must put increase on that 370 because it's very small. At least maybe if you can lift up to 1,000 rand, could be fine. And also he must focus on the criminals, because the gangsters too much, especially in the Western Cape. Yeah, so I'm expecting him to touch all of those things. Yeah, because people is through a lot, Sisketi. See you from Cape Town. Thank you.
Hello, Cathy. It's Tommy here in East London. You know, Cathy, with me, I don't see anything new that this speech is going to come with, especially with this so-called GNU, because the very people who were critical over the years are going to be very quiet, as we have already witnessed in the past few weeks, few months. No one is going to be critical of that speech. So there's nothing new coming. It's just another waste of time and money. There's nothing. Because even from the last year's speech, he hasn't implemented nothing. I mean, these guys are taking us for a ride. They are just taking us for a ride, and we seem to be too much comfortable with that. Thank you.
Good morning, Cathy. Please help me out. I just don't understand this. I don't know whether to call it excitement or obsession with the so-called government of national unity. We've had a real government of national unity under President Mandela in 1994, right? And I don't remember the media worrying about, people being in the opposition and what they're going to be saying, or other parties, what are they going to be saying after the president has addressed us? Why is there so much obsession about what opposition parties saying that are part of the national government of national unity? Because it's not the first time that we've had ministers from other parties being in the cabinet, right? Maybe I'm missing something. Just enlighten me, Cathy. Because this excitement and obsession doesn't make sense to me.
Hashtag SFM Talking Point.
Dabo, I don't know about excitement or obsession. Really? Is that how far one would take it? But of course, we've always cared about what opposition parties have to say. And yes, there have been members of the opposition that are part of government, right? One thinks about Patricia de Lille, that comes to mind, low-hanging fruit, and sort of how her posture at least seemed to change publicly when it comes to how she was criticizing the government once she had come in as a minister. So of course there are all of these nuances that tend to play into it, and we must care about what it is that they have to say. I don't think that there's an unusual excitement or obsession about it. Could be wrong. Njabulo, you're in Durban. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good, Njabulo. Go for it.
It's Kevin. Kevin and that group, that minority group of individuals who want to always feel victimized in every situation that is in the political climate in South Africa. First of all, these people he's talking about who have these acres of land that cost so much money, where did they get that land from? Who did they dispossess of that land? Were these people ever fairly compensated for that land? No. Those were our grandfathers, our forefathers. They weren't compensated for the land. The fact that we are allowing for this to take place in a fair market situation is more than enough for them. So he needs to pipe down and get back into his little corner there. Whatever it is that that minority feel is unfair, and they need to understand that in this democratic compensation, in this situation that we have in South Africa, where the majority are crammed into so little land, and the majority and the minority owns so much of the land, it is totally not fair. This is why we have situations like Gaza, like Palestine, like Israel, where people feel comfortable, even President Trump, to even speak out about taking over other people's land. It can't be. This man needs to be dragged in front of the courts for his thoughts. That's how bad it is.
You know, Njabulo, as Kevin was speaking, he reminded me of a study that was done, if I'm not mistaken, it was the HSRC, but it does date back a couple of years. If we're in 2025, so it must have been about around 2023. And it was perceptions of, it was a quality of life study, right? And it looked at what has life been like for people in the last, at the time it was about 27, 28 years of democracy. And there was the real effect of just how life had changed, quality of life had changed. And then there was also the perceived effect of how quality of life had changed. So in real terms, life had gotten better for white South Africans, marginally so for black South Africans, right? They're still very much on the bottom, even though some of the metrics had moved up. But the quality of life for white South Africans had moved up quite substantially. But on the perceptive end of it, white South Africans felt that their lives had gotten worse 27, 28 years after democracy. Meanwhile, black South Africans had felt that their lives had gotten better. And there were improvements there. So there is the conversation to be had about perception, how one feels about whether their life has gotten better or not, and whether or not that is real, whether that is that is reflective of what is actually happening and what has actually happened in our society.
And that is the important part, the real aspect of it. We're too engaged in feelings, and we need to remove ourselves from our feelings, because that's for me and you, but it's not for the broader matrix. So yeah, guys, it really needs to be handled, and to get up in the morning and call a show and go at the host and tell you that you're trying to give him your opinion when you're just asking questions and trying to engage. Yeah, Kevin, yo man, wake up on the better side of bed tomorrow.
All right, Njabula and Durban, let's leave it there. Rudzani, you're in Kempton Park. Good morning, Rudzani.
Good morning, Cathy. I can't help as well to notice what Kevin has been saying, but let me maybe quickly tell him that the land that he's worried about, I don't even know how big the 100 hectares will be, but for him, because he's exposed, maybe he will know. One thing that he should note is that that land was never bought when it was taken from Africans that he hates so much, when he's even accusing us of doing reverse racism. So in South Africa, whether the government does it or not, I can guarantee him, if he's still going to be in South Africa, whether the government will take land or not, I can guarantee him, South Africans will one day wake up and say, enough is enough, we are taking it, even if the government is not going to give us the go-ahead. But having said that, Cathy, I've just felt that I need to mention that after disturbing with Kevin. The reason why I called Cathy, you remember last year I was complaining about the entrance at a government school in Gauteng, and then we said maybe we might have a conversation.
Rudani, just to reject my memory, your son wasn't in school for a year because you struggled to find a place for him.
No, he was at school that was very expensive. Fortunately, last year he has he became the top achiever in the school that I was struggling to pay, even though I was paying.
Oh, yes, I remember. Okay, yes, I remember now, yes.
So this year I've taken him out of that school. Unfortunately, the school sent me a message that he is one of the top achiever. He has got the bursary, and then we went there. I realized that he was one of the top performers. He even got on mathematics, he beaten everyone. So in short, I'm saying I'm no longer going to be on the queue of the other hundreds and thousands of parents who are frustrated in Gauteng. Mine has managed to get a school for himself because now he has done very well. So, but he's still not in government school. He is on private school, but he was still crying to me saying, can't you take me to Bletchley or Yakland? I said, leave those schools, concentrate on your education, but I feel for the parents in Gauteng, it's very difficult to get a school for a child in Gauteng.
Well, Ruzani, he's not living rent-free anymore, hey?
No. Yes, so this time around.
So now you've got to have some concessions. Now there's got to be some incentive for him because he's done very well. Congratulations to him and to you.
That's fine, thanks.
All right, Rudzani out in Kempton Park. Yeah, Rudzani had called in and actually sparked a conversation about the costs of education and just how unaffordable education is becoming in the country. So thanks for that update, Rudzani. Let me go to Charlie in Koffiefontein. Charlie, good morning.
Good morning, Cathy. Yeah, man. It's regarding AfriForum, ne? I'm saying for every government, or if that government was anything worth it, these guys, they would be standing in court right now, or they would be charged with treason. Because now they went to Orange Trump and the autistic Elon Musk, lied about the fake white genocide, lied about land being taken away from them, whereas the Expropriation Act is there. It tells if there is going to be new compensation. It's documented. It's everything. But no, they just feel to know that land that we have, or that land that we got unjustly, we are going to hold on to it. Now the government is saying, no, we want to expropriate land without compensation, but no one's land is going to be taken. If it's going to be taken, you will be fairly remunerated. They don't want that. They went to USA, spread lies about South Africa. Now, Orange Trump is now saying, no, we should look at what is South Africa doing, because it's treating the certain types of people very, very bad. Trump is thinking that white people are being slaughtered here in South Africa. And now he wants to increase tariffs. There's possibility that South Africa is going to lose out in AGOA. Now it's only now that the white nationalist AfriForums are realizing that if Trump does that, it's not going to affect only us black people. It's going to affect their own brothers and cousins who are farmers and who are in business. As the economy of South Africa is mostly owned by white people. They are backtracking now. They are saying, no, don't punish the people of South Africa, punish the ANC. This is why I'm saying, if this government was with any of its salt, these guys would be standing in a magistrate court, answering for what they are doing, because that is treason. And I want any white person to tell me that how are they being slaughtered? Because now they've made out those fake genocide about farm mothers. If you take farm mothers, they are the least affected by crime, just like white people are the least affected by crime in this country. White people are the least affected by crime, by unemployment.
Well, Charlie, I don't know that farmers are the least affected by crime. I don't know that is factual. What I do know is that some of the figures that the likes of AfriForum have used historically have not been true. There has not been data to substantiate what they say.
AfriForum is lying to the people, Cathy. I can provide you the stats if you want them. AfriForum are fearmongers. And like I'm saying, I fail to understand that how is it that our government is not doing anything to those guys. Also, white nationalists are now realizing that the ANC is losing power. Remember, whether we like it or not, the biggest protectors of white nationalists in South Africa is the ANC. If there was any other black political party which would have gotten into power, they would not have been privileged like they are privileged still here. So now they are realizing the ANC is losing power. Now the ANC is trying to level the playing field. But now they are going to such an extreme measures, the white nationalists, to say whatever happens, nothing of us is going to be touched.
Okay.
Because what if the ANC is going to lose power, then people are going to get back what rightfully belongs to them.
Okay, Charlie, let's leave it there. Charlie out in Coffee Fontaine. Let me take a quick break. I'm back with more of your calls.
Our story is a South African story.
Anchored in the belief that it takes all of us to build a country that thrives.
To educate our children for a brighter future. To care for our health and well-being.
To nurture our environment to sustain future generations. And to transform and build a stronger nation.
When no one is left behind. Inspiring each other to succeed. Anglo-American.
The National School Nutrition Program and social grants are instrumental in ensuring that children's needs for food and other essential services are met. We need a minimum health promotion levy of 20% on all sugary drinks to support social protection initiatives. Find out more on the next episode of Chew on This at heala.org, HEALA.org, on 30 January from 3 p.m.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Thursday, 6th of February, deliver the 2025 State of the Nation Address at the Cape Town City Hall. Tune in to the meeting point with Koketso Sachane with a special broadcast from 6 p.m., bringing you blow-by-blow coverage at the 2025 State of the Nation Address.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
It's your national round table. I'm taking your calls on 086 000 2032. That's the number to dial, 086 000 2032. On the WhatsApp voice note line, 0614 104 107. Let me go to Flagstaff. Stembele, good morning.
Morning, Sis Cathy. How are you?
Good.
Listen, man. I would like to commend you for the way you've engaged this guy. You're the program director here, and of course you have to take whatever punch that comes your way. You've engaged him quite very well, because the way he is doing things is just trying to provoke you for something that it's not even yours, because you are just, you have just put a topic there for everybody to engage on it. Let me say,
Stembele? The connection to him isn't great. It looks like we've lost him on the line. Let's see if we can get him back up. Gift, you are in the Eastern Cape. Good morning.
Good morning, Cathy, and compliments of the new season. It's the first time I'm speaking to you this year. Look,
I was wondering if it was the gift that I know often calls into the show, who tries to keep a low profile. But anyway, yes, Gift.
Look, I want to speak about my expectations on the sauna today.
Why are you acting like you don't have a sentence in the speech, Gift?
No, I don't have a clue what is the president going to say. It's a different scenario now, because is the president is going to be speaking on behalf of the government of national unity.
Yeah, okay, I understand. The part that is replaced by the GNU partners, your section is under there, ne? Those were your contributions from the Eastern Cape.
Of course. Look,
all right,
Look, I think one of my expectations on the sauna today is that I expect the president to speak on the government's key interventions to capacitate the state to stimulate the economy and deal with the unemployment in the country, but including ensuring that ESCOM has got the financial, law enforcement and infrastructure support to provide reliable and affordable electricity, because many times our communities are speaking about electricity outages, especially in the rural towns, and I think it's also one of the key challenges that our communities are complaining about. So I want him to speak about that. But also,
but Gift, when has ESCOM not had sufficient financial support from the fiscus?
Look, you know the challenges that ESCOM has spoke about, including some monies that he is owed by municipalities. You'll understand that. Hence, I'm saying that at least there must be that financial mass. But also, I think one of the issues that I think you also spoke about was the municipalities, because I know you're going to have a show just now on the municipality corner, and I think serious interventions are needed in some of dysfunctional municipalities in the country. Because one of the challenges that are faced by those municipalities is the issue of the tax revenue, because most of the people or consumers in those municipalities are indigent people, and I think a new financial model is needed in dealing with challenges faced by local government. But lastly, I think one of the issues that I think is also needed is the funding of Force Bank, or DNL, SABC, where you work, including some of the struggling SOEs, because these are the key anchors of our economy, and if serious intervention are not done, they are going to keep on collapsing. Lastly, look, I think you have seen most of the unemployed doctors protesting in the streets in many provinces in the country, including the province of the Eastern Cape and Limpopo, and I think some of these austerity measures implemented by National Treasury need to be looked at, because we can't keep on speaking about challenges that are faced in the health sector. So the president,
first, there has to be an acknowledgement that there are austerity measures in place, because even to date, government still denies that it's working off of an austerity budget.
No, there are austerity measures. We know for a fact. That is why the Minister of COGTA just last year, I think it was early December, issued that correspondence to say some of the community works programs employees, their last day at work will be the end of January. And at least we are happy that he issued another correspondence yesterday to say that there's got to be an extension on the employment of CW, because this was also based on the issues of the austerity measures. I mean, we cannot be in denial about that.
Yeah, so, all right, Gift. Let's leave it there. Gift out in the Eastern Cape. Thanks for that contribution, Gift. And yeah, some of the issues that he's touched on in relation to municipalities we'll look at in the second hour of the show. Tembele, you're back on the line.
Yes, it's Cathy. Thank you. I was saying, Cathy, the way you've engaged this guy, Kevin, was beautiful, sis. Because he's trying to provoke you, while he knows very well that you put a topic for everybody to engage on it. What I would like to say to you is that people like Kevin, Donald Trump, AfriForum, and others, who seem to have have an ambition to undermine everything that black people have worked so much hard for in this land. They have an alternative, sis. They can, because we are very much interested in sharing this land with them. We don't have a problem with that. But if they think that they cannot, they cannot share this country with us, they have an alternative. They must go back to where they came from. This is the land of our forefathers. And as we are going to continue to engage them in a manner that is not going to, undermine them, because when some laws are being passed, like your expropriation of land without compensation, that it's a law now. They must just agree to that and understand. Hello?
Yes, they must agree to that.
Yes, they must agree, Cathy, that this is the law that has been passed by the parliament, and it's going to work whether they like it or they don't. If they feel like this land belongs to us or belongs to them, they must just understand that we are going to share the land.
Okay.
Finish and clear.
Right.
We don't have a problem with sharing the land with them. If they are not satisfied with that, they must go back to Holland.
Stembele, let's leave it there. Stembele out in Flagstaff. Look, I also do think that if you look at what has happened, part of that messaging that has been referenced of AfriForum, it didn't just start today. It's been years in the making, at least 7-8 years on record that we can trace it back to. But when we're having these conversations, it is important for us not to get caught up in the hysterics, right? Because once we are not anchored in the reality, once we are not anchored in the facts, we ultimately denigrate to what we're seeing happen now, where you have a president saying whatever he feels like he wants to say that is not actually does not have any factual basis to it, and so let's be mindful of that when we're having these conversations. Yes, we can be emotive, we can be upset. By all means, express that, but that can't be where the conversation begins and ends. After we've expressed our emotion, let's get to whether it's rational. Let's get to whether it makes sense for us to be feeling the way that we feel. It's time for your latest news.
In our top stories, expectations ahead of the State of the Nation address this evening, and SIU welcomes dismissal of corrupt officials at Anglo Ashanti Hospital. Good morning. Basic Education Minister Siviwe Hwagobe says she's eager to hear government's plans to grow the economy and create jobs when President Cyril Ramaphosa delivers his State of the Nation address this evening. Ramaphosa will deliver the address at the Cape Town City Hall. Many South Africans have outlined their expectations for the country's future, calling for tangible solutions to the country's economic challenges. Hwagobe was speaking outside Parliament in Cape Town during the build-up of the SONA.
there's a broad agreement that we do need to look at growing the economy and essentially providing jobs. And what better way to really be part of that than have the conveyor belt, which is the basic education sector, being the ones who are providing a skillful workforce. So I am expecting the president tonight to be able to really articulate how education falls neatly into that kind of vision that he would be setting up for the country around growth and jobs.
Meanwhile, the KwaZulu-Natal government says the Climate Change Response Fund, which President Ramaphosa spoke about in his 2024 State of the Nation address, has not yet been established. The aim of the fund, which government and the private sector are supposed to have established, is to respond to the impact of climate change. KwaZulu-Natal has seen severe weather conditions over the past few years. Francois Rogers is Finance MEC.
At the last turn, the President had made a statement that we would be getting certain funding for disaster management and for climate change, which in fact has not materialized. Any future developments, we need to take the change in climatic conditions into account. When it comes to resilient infrastructure, particularly in housing and in roads and stormwater, more emphasis has to be placed on infrastructure that is going to be resilient to the climate change and to the storms that batter our province.
French arms manufacturer Thales, co-accused in former President Jacob Zuma's multi-billion rand arms deal corruption trial, has filed an application in the High Court in Pietermaritzburg. Thales wants to stop the prosecution and to be acquitted on all charges. It says in its founding affidavit its constitutional rights to a fair trial have been violated. Thales says since it pleaded not guilty to the charges in 2021, the matter has been postponed 16 times. It says since it was indicted in 2018, 2 of the witnesses that are fundamental to its defense have died. The Special Investigating Unit, the SIU, has welcomed the Gauteng government's decision to dismiss the officials who were implicated in corruption at the Anglo-Ashanti Hospital. The officials from the Gauteng Health as well as Infrastructure Development Departments face charges relating to alleged irregularities in awarding contracts for the refurbishing of the hospital in 2022. The SIU's investigation uncovered evidence of financial misconduct involving several people from 2 departments. SIU spokesperson Kaiser Khanyaho.
The Gauteng government acted on the SIU recommendation and charged the officials involved, which led to 5 officials being dismissed, 3 with a final written warning, 1 acquitted, while the other one was not charged because they left the department. The disciplinary action showed that the state institutions are acting on the results of the SIU investigation and implementing the consequence to hold officials implicated to account, recover assets and financial losses incurred by these institutions, and prevent further losses.
And finally, the International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola says Pretoria will continue to engage Washington, D.C. following U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's tweet. Rubio says he won't attend the G20 ministers meeting in South Africa in 2 weeks' time. This comes after U.S. President Donald Trump said South Africa was confiscating land and was treating certain classes of people very badly. The minister's spokesperson Crispin Piri says the minister has noted these developments.
Minister Lamola has reiterated that there is no arbitrary disposition of land or private property in South Africa. These laws are similar to the eminent domain laws of the United States. On the theme of the G20, Minister Lamola has stressed that solidarity or Ubuntu promotes collective problem solving.
Recapping the top story, Basic Education Minister Siviwe Gwagobe says she's eager to hear government's plans to grow the economy and create jobs when President Cyril Ramaphosa delivers his State of the Nation address this evening. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation. Outsurance has another random fact for you. In 1998, 500 grams of sugar cost about 3 rand. Now it's about 20 rand. There's nothing sweet about how the cost of living has gone up. But even in times like these, Outsurance is committed to saving you money on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754 for a quick and easy way to save. Let's hear what Rosemary has to say about the saving on her 2019 Ford Figo.
I phoned into Outsurance to get a quote. They were super efficient, super quick. I'm saving 421 rand a month. I'll stick my neck out and tell them to phone Outsurance.
Enjoy life-saving services like Help It Out with 24/7 access to panic assistance, roadside assistance and home assistance with just a tap on the app. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. Limits apply. T's and C's online.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
You're listening to The Talking Point. Welcome to the second hour of the show. It is 9 after 10 o'clock. Coming up in this hour, we'll be focusing on our Municipal Watch feature. And today, we're looking at local government and just how the President and his government plan on turning the state of local government around. What can we anticipate in as far as that State of the Nation address, and why is it that it does seem that matters of local government and governance are often at the back foot? You know, they're a footnote. They seem to be a footnote. Why does it not get the attention that it deserves when so much of how we experience daily life falls and really rests on municipalities and their ability to deliver services across the board? So we'll look at that conversation with Mohlahlana. That's coming up shortly. Before we get into it, lots of WhatsApp voice notes, text messages from the open line. We'll take a couple of those voice notes and then get into Municipal Watch.
Good morning, Cathy and team. I think the thoughts, this is Jay by the way, but the thoughts on this US change, particularly focus on South Africa, has to have something to do with the way South Africa has grown in terms of its foreign policy, particularly against Israel. Our country has become too vocal for the United States to ignore, and that is a fact. And then our alliances between Russia and China, that's also an issue. And our involvement in terms of the US counter sanctions, particularly for the states and the people that are sanctioned by them, that has to put us in their radar. The fact that we are close to them in terms of funding, it means we are on their radar and they can just deal with us like that. Thanks.
Good morning, Cathy. This is Agmatebola. Yeah, Sister Cathy, on Sona today, I expect new promises from the GNU government, whereby I don't know what will the president promise, because it's all about promises and all that. But when it comes to Donald Trump, he shows us that he's a dictator and he wants racism to come back to Africa. That's what I analyze is saying on us as South Africa. This is Agmatebola. Good morning, Sister Cathy.
Morning, Sister Cathy. Sister Cathy, the tension between South Africa and America is because of the ICJ, that court case against Israel. And the other thing, the relationship between South Africa and China, Russia. and Rwanda problem. That is the reason why America is behaving like this. They don't want South Africa to associate itself with China and Russia. That is where the problem is, and that Israel case. That is where only the problem is, nothing else. Norman from Brixton.
Good morning, Cathy. With the GNU priority number 1, inclusive growth and job creation, age limit of 35 years must be scrapped out, because this is what the advertisements are putting forward. I think the president must also stress that the sectors must drop that part out, because there are people who started applying and there was no job. This was when they were still youth, way back in 2014. They are still not employed. Thank you.
Municipal Watch, bringing your local issues on the national agenda. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Well, as the President prepares to deliver his State of the Nation address, collapsing municipalities remain one of the biggest challenges for him and his administration. Political parties are, of course, gearing up for the 2026 municipal elections, and we're going to hear many commitments and promises around turning things around. But the reality is we have seen very little changes in as far as the state of municipalities, particularly for those where there is dysfunctionality and distress. Joining us to discuss this issue is Cathy Mohlahlana, who is Group Chief Advisor at DSO Consulting. Cathy, good morning to you. I'm resisting the urge to say Happy New Year because it's the 6th of February, but it's the first time we're speaking to you in the new year.
Absolutely, Cathy. And good morning to you. Good morning to the listeners. My new line is Happy New Month.
Oh, Happy New Month. All right. Although it's the 7th, it's not very new. But anyway, let's not get caught up in that.
Something must be new. Something must be new, yeah. Thank you, Cathy.
Sure. Cathy, today is the State of the Nation address, and there will be, of course, different things that the President prioritizes when it comes to the speech. Often we will see, just in tracing the entire speech, what he is emphasizing based on how long he also takes speaking about it. So it's usually the likes of education, the likes of health. Previously, we've of course had a lot of emphasis on infrastructure developments, ESCOM, struggling SOEs. Those have really seemed to encapsulate or taken the bulk of the contribution in the State of the Nation address. All this while, we have had municipalities that the Auditor General tells us year on year are getting worse. What do we need to see differently when it comes to how we address or even come up with interventions, how we design interventions that are geared up at local government?
Yeah, I think, Cathy, you're absolutely right. The previous speeches of the President has tended to focus, I think, on the bigger issues, which in essence were meant to drive a particular trajectory, which was to grow the economy or to at least get industry to work together with government in delivering critical infrastructure and all of the big issues, education, as you've put it, The other aspect is health. I mean, we know in terms of, on the health side, in terms of, what, the act, or the bill that, was floated, for a very long time that, was eventually coming into law. So the issue here is that against the backdrop of the fact that we have a GNU government, and this is something which in the previous elections of local government, and when we started seeing coalitions, it was just like a small phenomenon. It was just a local government, issue. But now that, it has actually caught on the national as well as the provincial, it means that, that problem which was, seen as just, a coalition issue, is actually now a real problem that, the president needs to at least imagine beyond, just, coming up with big slogans, big projects and so on, and actually start putting plans in place. First plan is we've had on this program number of times around the financing of local government. At least the minister has now picked up on that agenda, and I think he heard us, Cathy. Thank you. And the listeners, he heard all of us, and he picked up on the fact that, let's look at how we finance local government better. And that is one of the critical issues, because if there's a program that is going to be put in place, we can put grant plans in place, we can put documents in place, we can put project plans. If we cannot finance it, and we cannot at least annex money and dedicate money within the fiscus and within the financing mechanisms of government, those programs are never going to see the light of day. And we're talking about those municipalities that are failing and don't have economic basis.
And Mohlahlana, before you move to the next point, I want us to stay with this issue of the restructuring and the financing of local government, because this absolutely has an implication for the national budget. And yet often one would get the impression that you have an national budget sitting in one corner and then local government budget sitting in another corner, because of how ultimately we don't have that broad centralization, because we have three spheres of government. But what happens at a local level very much influences the decisions that are made. Gift made a point in the open line that if there's no clarity around the financing of Eskom, you have municipalities that are sitting there with all of this debt that want that debt written off, right? Because they're saying their residents can't afford it. So that has an implication on how much money we allocate towards Eskom. Because if that doesn't account for that debt, then it of course adds a liquidity risk for Eskom, which then puts a whole lot of other risk on the sovereign.
Absolutely. And I think those are the key financing decisions that would need to be made with regards to municipalities are not just on their own. They also are dependent on other suppliers, and the biggest suppliers are Eskom, Rainwater, and the other water services authorities that exist, or water boards that exist around the country. So the issue here is that if the president, or at least does not set up the policy and the principles of how this financing is going to be approached, it will mean that it will keep on falling short. And every year that passes by, and there's a SONA and there's a budget speech, and if this is not resolved, it means that the gap grows even a lot bigger. The needs grow a lot bigger. The issues become a lot more complex and more challenging. So firstly, I think it's important that Eskom as well is given some kind of assurance, or some kind of guarantees, or some kind of in fact they are beyond guarantees. If we look at the debt that they are carrying, the fiscus has to at least come back and give them relief to a large extent, because if they don't get relief, then it means they go to NERSA and they go and make gestures, which are sometimes in fact, most of the time unaffordable to the consumer. And if that gets passed, it means that the consumer gets piled up with, debt that may come from inefficiencies. For instance, Kusile is one, as well as Midupi. two of the new power stations that were supposed to have come up to relieve the heavy load, but those ended up costing more than what the budget was, ended up taking much longer than they were supposed to have been delivered. And these were supposed to be the new generation of power stations according to the designs that they'd come up with. So those issues have had a trickle-on effect all the way down to the consumer. So that part must be at least resolved. The second part, which is in fact, the core part which we are talking about is the whole formula of leaving municipalities to collect revenue of up to 90%, and then other 10% comes from the fiscus, has not worked. I think that is what we have observed all along. And it means that, it may not be in all of the municipalities, or it may not affect the metros as much as it affects, some of the locals and some of the districts. However, that formula, the revision thereof ought to look at, where there's an economic base and where there is no economic base, and be able to drive at least, some kind of increase in that formula. But the second thing to do as well is to look at how to develop mechanisms, or at least attract, investors into that particular economy.
Mohlahlana, do you think that the issue of the affordability of electricity is something that is actually being looked into as deeply as we need to? Because just that one issue alone has such big repercussions across not only across government but across the economy. Because when people can't afford electricity, it also means that the quality of life depreciates, right? And it has a bearing on what municipalities are able to collect in as far as revenue is concerned.
So my sense is that, yes, for a while there was a serious look at how Eskom is going to be financed. We also have seen the change in terms of their business model of now breaking up Eskom into the three entities that they should, that they have. And the issue was that for a while there was cross-subsidization within Eskom itself. Now, the issue of cross-subsidization will not be possible when you have entities that are standing on their own. So then it means that, the financing model of the utility for electricity and energy broadly must be different to what it has always been, where you could be able to put in money or go into the bond market and use the sovereign, as in the country, as a guarantor. So those changes are going to come in. So the issue is we have not seen how the financing of those new entities is going to be approached. We have not seen, for instance, out of how the Electricity Act is going to be revised to make way or give life, to the new entities that are being put forward. So then it means that there's neglect with regards to how Eskom has been financed. There was now offloading of debt, from Eskom, which in part has been done. But all of that 400 billion that Eskom has on its books is one that needs to be looked at quite differently. So in this case, we're sitting with a case where Eskom, if it's not resolved, and I refer back to a conversation as well, it's going to affect all of the other siblings, which is the municipalities, the industry, and all of those. So then attention must go as part of what I think the president must pronounce, how Eskom and the different entities are going to be financed, or at least given seed capital to get going so that they can be sustainable on their own. And then as well, looking at how those increases that they would have to put forward are governed, much more through the regulator, so that they are not double digits. Because essentially, since the advent of load shedding, we've had, double-digit increases, almost to about, equating to a compound annual growth rate, if you take it to now of about 100% to the electricity price, if not more. those are the issues that I think the president should address as well the formula of financing municipalities in a way that the other municipalities that have fallen behind are given the wherewithal. But the third aspect is that of driving economic development within the areas that don't have economy. And that is something that, I think the preoccupation of government should start going there, because you can put a lot of money into ailing assets and you can put a lot of money into ailing municipalities, but you need to have a foundation against which they are going to start holding their own.
If we take just last year's State of the Nation address, and you'll find some of these themes present in others too, just on that issue of driving economic development, Mohlahlana, the President has previously spoken about the creation of smart cities, the bullet train. All of these, of course, would have an impact on municipalities if implemented, because they would be able to spark that economic activity, especially where there's intentionality around creating these economic hubs. We've seen this conversation take on different forms over the years, and we can think about what this looked like under a Jacob Zuma presidency, where, even the likes of, you talk about the power stations, the likes of Mitupi, Kusile, these were identified as being central nodes around which economic hubs in particular municipalities would then be built, and this would have the knock-on effect of creating jobs, etc., etc. However, we are not seeing this happen. And that, of course, then also means that municipalities remain in the state that they are in, underdeveloped, under-resourced.
Cathy, I think we have to at least laud the president for wanting to do big projects, of wanting to put up the bullet trains, the smart cities, and all of those things. Recently, as recent as last week, just taking a drive downtown Johannesburg and actually seeing the dilapidation that, a city, which is an economic driver of the country, has fallen under. And looking at, how raw sewage is also flowing in the streets, for instance, and looking at how the roads and so on and the buildings, so I think for us there's infrastructure that was built to support cities, and this is the point that I'm making. There's infrastructure that some municipalities were fortunate to have some kind of infrastructure, yet some don't have. So the issue here is that infrastructure of bulk water services, infrastructure of for power connection to the electrical grid, making sure that the roads and the pathways and the streetways, as well as the fact that now there's the likes of the rapid bus transportation that is in the city. But if these cities remain not being refurbished and the infrastructure not being refurbished, then you will have roads collapsing, such as the gas explosions that we have seen.
I'm going to ask you to pause it there, Mohlahlana. We're going to take the latest news headlines. I'm back with Mohlahlana, and of course I'll also take your contributions.
News headlines on SAFM. I am Onde Lambana, and a very good morning. Some energy analysts believe President Cyril Ramaphosa is likely to announce government's plans to mitigate rolling blackouts when he delivers the State of the Nation address this evening. Meanwhile, Basic Education Minister Siviwe Kwagube says she's eager to hear government's plans to grow the economy and create jobs when Ramaphosa delivers his address. And the National Prosecuting Authority has confirmed that French arms manufacturer Thales has served it with an application in former President Jacob Zuma's corruption case, which is related to the multi-billion rand arms deal. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Taking a look at your markets this morning, the rand is currently trading at 18 rand 61 to the dollar, 23 rand 26 to the pound, and 19 rand 36 to the euro. Markets in Asia were mostly in the green at the closing bell. The JSE is mixed in mid-morning trade. Markets in Europe are trading higher. Gold is trading at $2,855, platinum at $980 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $74.69 a barrel.
Action is getting tougher in the second half of the league. The Folks want to ease off pressure with a win, but the Eagles aim to fly with 3 points to remain in the top 5. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch Borussia Mönchengladbach FC versus Eintracht Frankfurt FC on Saturday, 8 February at 7:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere, for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Thursday, 6th of February, deliver the 2025 State of the Nation Address at the Cape Town City Hall. Tune in to the meeting point with Koketso Sachane with a special broadcast from 6 p.m. bringing you blow-by-blow coverage at the 2025 State of the Nation Address.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
You'd think reheating leftovers would be quick, right? But somehow they're still cold. Back in they go, still cold. By the third time, you just eat them anyway. But you know what's faster than reheating leftovers? Getting your car covered online with Santam. It only takes 2 minutes. To switch, visit santam.co.za. Santam, this is freedom.
Don't miss out! Make every day a payday with the guaranteed 1 million rand Daily Lotto jackpot that's waiting to be won. From just 3 rand, play Daily Lotto now for your chance at the guaranteed 1 million rand jackpot. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play! Players must be 18 years old and play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Municipal Watch, bringing your local issues on the national agenda. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
We continue the conversation on the talking point. We're looking at municipalities and the kind of interventions that are needed to ensure that there is a turnaround in the state of municipalities, but also what should the president be saying tonight when it comes to the interventions that are needed. Mielani Holeni, Group Chief Advisor at Ndiso Consulting Group, is my guest this morning. I'll be taking your calls on 086 0002032, on the WhatsApp voice note line 0614 104 107. And Mielani, of course, you know, earlier I was making the point that what is unfortunate about how municipalities are often perceived is that it almost seems like they're operating out of a different country, you know, that you have the national imperative and what we want to do as a country, and then you have municipalities somewhere on the side in the little corner. How do you think we can begin to change that?
Exactly, I think the point, you know, I mean, the question is also telling, Cathy, that you're putting forward, because the issue here is that you were asking earlier about, you know, the big projects that are coming and so on. The big projects should never be seen just as national or provincial projects. They are projects for South Africa. And those projects must then be anchored within the localities which they touch. So it cannot be a situation where a big announcement gets made in Parliament or wherever to say we're going to build this big, massive thing. If it's a dam, it will be in a locality. If it's a train, it will cut across, a number of provinces and municipalities, and therefore you need to make sure you involve all of the different, municipalities so that there's an economic benefit. So there are two things that, can stimulate an economy. One is to make sure that, the core infrastructure that you have in place does not fall into disrepair, and you keep up, with making sure that, the pipelines work, the power stations and lines work. The roads, don't have potholes and so on. And of course, there is the building of the new. And that building of the new should now be a more orchestrated agenda that gets all of the different stakeholders. And we add that, the private sector is not a bystander. They are not just there. They should not just be there treated as tender takers in a way. But they should also be given a role where they can also finance or come up with different mechanisms to grow actually the size of the projects and to grow the pot of money that would be available at any given point in time, so that not only the fiscus is put under pressure, but there is also private money that flows into fast-tracking this project, the project. So the issue about, having national versus provincial versus local could be a story of, not even yesteryear, but it should be thrown out of the window, and we start, at least taking the principles that were there coming up in the district development model, which seems, to have, a lot of silence. There's not much that says district development model. If the name district development model is maybe the problem, let's look at integrated development across, government, so that you pull all the spheres of government to pull money, to pull resources, to actually have plans. And we've spoken about this as well, about, having too many plans. Can we have one plan that is going to drive, the bullet train from here to Limpopo, so that, it's not many smaller plans that, one must come up with and struggle to get them to be accepted and to be financed and to be implemented. So the issue here is that I think the president has spoken enough around, and I've heard, other ministers such as the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure talking about making South Africa a construction site. I think that construction site, should be one that opens up the economy, not just, creates, or seeks to create, if you want, fiefdoms, or wants to create, a new infrastructure which is not connected to the rest of where the country is supposed to be going. And I'm not in any way accusing the minister, but I'm just making a point, that it needs to look at, how all of those things, come back together and drive, the local economies.
Mohlahlana, you've taken the words right out of my mouth. The district development model was positioned as the model that was going to ensure that there was a streamlining of services across national, across provincial, and break these silos. It was going to lead to greater integration. And we saw the pilot, right, of the district development model in certain areas. But I'm not getting the sense that there has been that much commitment from across the different spheres of government, including your departments, in actually ensuring that the level of integration that is needed takes place.
And I think that is one of the things that, or the paragraphs, or 2 or 3 paragraphs, which the president should be reflecting on. At the national and provincial level, we've spoken about the form of government that is there. At local government, we've spoken about the form that is there in terms of coalitions. It means increasingly there's convergence, increasingly there's integration, and that integration is happening. In fact, in some cases by chance, or at least the citizenry are pushing for this integration to happen. You cannot have, take the example of Gauteng with its 3 metros, which is quite, a unique position, and as well as, the locals, that, also exist. And you can have a COJ, and you then have, in the West, municipalities which are trying to still find, their own, the Mogale cities, the Rand West, and so on and so forth. So you can see immediately the contrast that, if you have that integration that looks at, even within the local government space, and even using the might of provinces to be able to pull that integration, it would actually hasten the pace of bringing all of the different, spheres of government together. So, as I say, if the problem is the word district development model, let's talk about an integration plan that integrates, government. Because the reality is that, government's failure points where there's no integration can be many. Whereas when there's integration, you are reducing the failure points and at least, creating a more sustainable platform for building on success, for exchanging skills, for driving strategies that, are aligned and so on. So there are greater benefits from integration than the silo mentality and the emphasis of spheres, that, are not working together.
Let me bring in our listeners into this conversation. Felix, you're calling from Mthatha. Good morning.
Morning, Cathy. Aren't you scared when I'm phoning?
Why would I be scared that you're phoning?
I've sent you years ago and you never come back to me and say, Uncle Felix said how far I went.
With what now?
Sorry?
With what?
That's state funerals, remember? I asked you, when was it, 2022?
Yeah, but we've done the issue of state funerals a number of times since then. No, the intention here is that you don't listen all the time like you should. You see, if you put something out there, then you've got to listen for when we actually do it.
The whole year,
namanga.
Because you get lost and I don't even know where you are.
Felix, yeah, what do you want to talk about?
Yes, man, I want to talk about the municipality and this thing. Cathy, every year there's money or the electricity tariffs go up, right? And I think the last budget or two, there was money that was allocated to ESCOM from our budget, our main budget. If I'm wrong, then you can correct me. Now, what I feel or think is, why don't we, as the people of South Africa, buy electricity direct from ESCOM? Leave the municipalities out that are not paying ESCOM. Let's buy electricity direct from ESCOM. The quicker you buy, in other words, the quicker your income, your money is in your bank, the better it is for you. Instead of waiting for the municipality to pay you maybe in 60 or 80, 60 or 90 days or 120 days, you get your money immediately that you give me electricity. I think we'll have a better thing because the municipalities, I don't know what they do with this money because it doesn't belong to them.
Felix, on the one hand, you're right that there are municipalities that seem to not be paying monies over to ESCOM, but then the other is that they're just not collecting enough revenue.
Well, electricity, most of the electricity now with the meter thing. So, I mean, if you're going to look at it, I'm talking about more or less in the Eastern Cape where I am. Most of the houses have got the prepaid meter, whatever the case may be, you can call it. You got to buy electricity to have electricity.
Okay, Felix.
And if you don't buy electricity, you won't have electricity. And secondly, because we suffer sometimes now when the municipality doesn't pay ESCOM cuts us off too, and yet we pay electricity, and and it's unfair to us. I mean, and that's not right at all.
All right, Felix, let's leave it there. Butana, you're in Rosebank. Good morning.
Good morning, my sister.
Good morning, Butana.
You know, my sister, municipalities have become a feeding trough for comrades for years. For years. Let the government that is in charge now be serious of dealing with tender cooks that are left the hook and do as they please and destroy our own assets in municipality. They are saving left and right, including the consultants. They employ consultants when there's no need for it. but just to channel our money out of government. The project are abandoned, Kathy. 11 billion project is abandoned. No consequences. And a person just work only a week on the project, just been put on the project. The next week is left with money. No consequences for it. They must be serious.
Butana,
those people that are there in government,
Butana,
of national unit.
Do you think that, you know, what you're saying about municipalities being feeding troughs for these political networks of patronage, right? And I don't think that's in the ANC alone. I don't think it's isolated to the ANC. I think that you'll find that it exists across multiple political parties. Do you think that's part of the reason why municipalities are sort of largely left to their own devices, and there doesn't seem to be this will to actually ensure that things become different at a national level? Because, of course, if there's too much intervention, if there's too much pressure, then it'll upset the people on the ground who are also benefiting from the state of chaos.
They have been destroyed deliberately, with no consequences, Kathy. They've been destroyed deliberately. Tell me who has stolen money in municipality that is in jail now? Nothing, Kathy, nothing. They do it. Our municipality, even Johannesburg, is worse here. It's worse. You know, the next thing they say, we have to pay ESCOM. They increase money as if we've got the endless money. Yet they don't even pay that ESCOM. Recently now, municipality of Johannesburg, they were in dispute with ESCOM. They don't have dispute with us. They just close the services because they do as they please.
Butana, let's leave it there. Out in Rosebank. Magdalene, you're in Bloom. Good morning.
Morning, Casey and the listeners. Casey, it's so simple. The problem is that we are all indigents in different municipalities. We are in that category because of one thing. We are unemployed. We are not exposed to the business. We are not exposed to the employment. Even a young child of 20 years or 30 years who has acquired qualifications cannot work in South Africa. So that itself, it brings a problem to the municipalities. So how can you pay the rates and taxes whereas you are not working? And you've got talent, you've got a gift to try by all means you can contribute to the economy of your own municipality, but you are not engaged, you are not given a chance to do that. So that itself will open a gap to the municipality so that the municipality cannot be able to extract or have enough revenue to can explore its own economic capacity.
Yeah.
So the most important thing, that's what I said to the former Premier of Free State in 2021, that the most important thing is for you to allow the people of Free State, even of Mangaung municipality, to be exposed to the jobs, to be exposed to the business opportunities, not the earmarked people, not the looters as such. Even this thing of land expropriation, it has got its own policy, but it will be only benefited to those who are looters, those who are earmarked who can benefit out of it. But the ordinary South African who is within the municipality won't be able to can explore in that expropriation of land. Right. They don't even have enough information about that.
I hear you, Magdalene.
That's the best thing. That's the best thing.
Municipalities must make better use of the human resource that exists within their boundaries. And it's a good point, because how many people sit unemployed in municipalities? Are there creative ways that we should be thinking around skilling, upskilling South Africans so that they're able to feed back into some of these services that we need. I'm going to take a quick break. Melanie, I'll also give you a chance to come in when we continue.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Thursday, 6th of February, deliver the 2025 State of the Nation Address at the Cape Town City Hall. Tune in to the meeting point with Koketso Sachane with a special broadcast from 6 p.m., bringing you blow-by-blow coverage at the 2025 State of the Nation Address.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Ever stood in front of the fridge hoping for a quick lunch decision only to find nothing? So you just order what you had yesterday. Well, getting your car covered online with Santam is faster than deciding what to have for lunch. It only takes 2 minutes to switch. Visit santam.co.za. Santam, this is freedom.
Municipal Watch, bringing your local issues on the national agenda. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
All right, I'm going to continue taking your calls on the conversation we've been having with Melanie Holeni. Melanie, let me just take our listeners that are still on the line before I give you a chance to come in. Brian, you're in Cape Town.
Hi, Cathy. Good morning to you and your guests and listeners. I just want to state, I don't want to comment really on the Sona speech because to me that is once again a recycling of empty promises. And we can see, use the municipality as an example, municipalities rather. In his last speech, he said they were going to purge or remove all the deadwood in the municipality and corrupt people in the municipality or incompetent people. We know now that nothing has been done. I can give you an example. Recently Sakina Kamwendo on a morning news, 7 a.m. news, interviewed Kenny Kuneni about the gas line in Bree Street in Johannesburg. The first company which was appointed to solve that problem had done nothing to date of this of the interview with Kenny. And they were paid 93 million rand. And then she said, I'll come back to you. And then at the subsequent interview with him, there was a whole lot of theatre taking place there. A new company was appointed, or supposed new company. They discovered afterwards that these were all the old same directors, reshuffled with 1 or 2 new names, company having a different or new name. Now, how on earth can you remedy a municipality or province or the local government when you don't even do a proper check of who the directors are? So there's now a new company with the same directors of the first who were paid 93 million and a second quote was over 100 million. So Ramaphosa is lying to the public, he's doing nothing, and we won't see any improvement. So, it's just recycling the old. The problem here is that nothing, absolutely zero, has been done about state capture and the Guptas. Over 2.5 trillion rand was looted. And recently you had a researcher on your program who actually had given this figure, and I agree with that. My own research we see that over 2.5 trillion has been looted.
Okay.
From 94 to date, with the group going through way back to the arms deal, even before that arms deal.
Okay, all right, Brian. I think you've made the point. Tabo in Kroonstad?
Thank you, Cathy. Yes, Cathy, the situation what we are talking about is the situation which I went to UNISA to go and study how to run a private state surrounded by private entities. If somebody doesn't know how to do it, you will never be able to do it. The lecturers which were lecturing us, they came in from America on Sunday. After they lecturing Bulawayo and Namibia, Windhoek, and then they arrive in South Africa, UNISA, seated. He lecturing us and then he go away. He go to Natal and then Cecil University down there in the Eastern Cape. It's a course of itself. You are right,
They will, like the last caller now, they will never be able to stop it because the private security in municipality, he will never arrest somebody doing a problem there. The point is clear. Department of Security, the security of municipality, they can cooperate the police. They must do the work, what must be done, giving service to people, animals, environment, and that situation. It needs somebody, it's a cause of itself. It had never happened in South Africa. South Africa is a private state and the private entities. The government of the municipality is a private entity and the private state is the farmers and other areas. We wanted to do that course. I got a certificate. I want to help. I'm now in Kroonstad. I'm 76 years old. I know how to do this thing.
Okay.
I wanted to say that too.
All
Thank
right,
you,
Thabo, thank you. Thank you for sharing some of your own insights and reflections there. Mohlahlana?
Yes, I think for me is there are common themes, and firstly, I think we must just note some of the frustration that is there within the citizenry, because the voices that are coming through are largely speaking on behalf of many of us that don't have the fortune of phoning the show or being heard, in the hooker of cabinet or somewhere. So the issues here, and I'll start by saying, one, we did speak about the integration of government. I think that is something that, the president should touch on. But the other issue is how to then grow the local economies. Because the issue of, people coming in and wanting to at least do business, within the government is one that, not everyone is geared, properly from the beginning to be able to get onto accessing the opportunities. But even more broadly, is the looking at how each one of the areas has got its own strengths, which can be supported from a government point of view and crowded in from a private sector point of view, whether it's light manufacturing, whether it's the big word beneficiation, whether it's localization of various products. So there's that aspect which I think we ought to be pulling all of the different structures of government, from your NEFs, the small business department, the new conglomeration of CIFA, as well as the other the other bodies that have come together for financing, as well as dispensing knowledge and so on. And you can largely take it across the different clusters. If you look at economically, you look at socially, you look at as well at the agriculture and so on. So there's that issue about local economic development, which I think needs to be answered now in a large way. The next issue, which I think we're hearing, is obviously about dealing with the corruption or the perceptions or the reality and all of those things that must be put in place. And this is where, if I go back to where we were grey listed as a country, and there's money that has been lost through the coffers of government, whether to the international bank accounts or even locally. There's a bigger issue around dealing with tightening the governance, the management, as well as the financial disciplines within municipalities, so that procurement of course should be procurement and will be procurement, but what are the safeguards that will ensure that there won't be a theft of money which is blatant, there won't be siphoning of money from the state and so on. And I think there's an issue around human resources, utilizing the human resources that are available within, whether it's localities or the talent pool that is there in South Africa, to improve, municipalities and to build them up. Lastly, Cathy, the issue here is that the assumptions in the local government white paper are not just about financing. They're actually far-reaching. So those are the things that are going to drive and give an answer, or at least models of how to then fix local government so that it becomes more integrated, more inclusive, and can enjoy investment as well as other stakeholders that can play a role in it.
Mohlahlana, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. And of course, thank you to all of our listeners that have engaged on this subject. Let's take you to the latest news update.
Thank you, Cathy. Top stories of this hour. Analyst expectations on Ramaphosa Sona and NPA served by the arms manufacturer Thales. For SAFM News, I am Ondalambana and a very good morning. Some energy analysts believe President Cyril Ramaphosa is likely to announce government's plans to mitigate rolling blackouts when he delivers the State of the Nation address this evening. Eskom implemented Stage 3 rolling blackouts last Friday and Saturday. It said it had sought to replenish its emergency reserves after some of its units tripped. Research associate at UCT Hilton Trollip says the weekend rolling blackouts were not a surprise. He says over 300 days without electricity interruption is a step in the right direction. Trollip, however, says more rolling blackouts are likely before the country's energy crisis is resolved.
It's been great that we've had this more than 300 days, I think, of no load shedding. And that's a fact. But the other fact is that if you look at Eskom, they publish a system status report every 2 weeks or so. And if you look at their January status report, what it says in that status report, and you can go and look it up on Google, that every week they say what is the likelihood of load shedding. And basically the status report they published on the 12th of January, starting in at the end of January with like yellows and oranges, with red being the worst.
Meanwhile, Basic Education Minister Sivue Kwahube says she's eager to hear government's plans to grow the economy and create jobs when Ramaphosa delivers his address. Many South Africans have outlined their expectations for the country's future, calling for tangible solutions to the country's economic challenges. Kwahube was speaking outside Parliament in Cape Town during the build-up of the SONA.
There's a broad agreement that we do need to look at growing the economy and essentially providing jobs. And what better way to really be part of that than have the conveyor belt, which is the basic education sector, being the ones who are providing a skillful workforce. So I am expecting the President tonight to be able to really articulate how education falls neatly into that kind of vision that he would be setting up for the country around growth and jobs.
The National Prosecuting Authority has confirmed that French arms manufacturer Thales has served it with an application in former President Jacob Zuma's corruption case, which is related to the multi-billion rand arms deal. Thales wants to stop the prosecution and to be acquitted on all charges. It says in its founding affidavit that its constitutional rights to a fair trial have been violated. NPA spokesperson Advocate Mthunzi Maga says they will vigorously argue in opposition of the application of Thales. The Limpopo Health Department says 220 out of 500 clinics operate for 24 hours in the province. The non-provision of services at night has negatively affected some communities. A 21-year-old woman gave birth outside a closed clinic in Rosenekal on Saturday night. She was later taken to Lydenburg Hospital. Rosenekal Clinic is among 320 clinics that do not operate at night. The department spokesperson Shikwambana says they have increased the number of ambulances in the province to deal with emergencies at clinics that close at night.
As we bring in more staff into our employ, especially nurses, we are staggering the number of clinics that operate 24 hours. So as we speak now, out of the 540 clinics that we have in the province, about 220 are operating 24 hours. The reason why we had to increase the number of our ambulances, let's say our fleet, was to ensure that we mitigate against such happenings where clinics are not working 24 hours, to say in case where a person requires healthcare service during the night, they can then easily access an ambulance to take them to a facility that is opened at that time.
Australian researchers have produced the first kangaroo embryo through in vitro fertilization, or IVF. There's no shortage of kangaroos in the country, but the scientists say the groundbreaking achievement could help save other marsupial species from extinction. The BBC's Simon Atkinson reports.
Australia has one of the most diverse populations of animals and plants in the world, but also the highest mammal extinction rate on the planet. After successfully injecting a single kangaroo sperm into an egg, academics at the University of Queensland are now hopeful the technique could be replicated to preserve some of Australia's endangered species. Koalas, Tasmanian devils and northern hairy-nosed wombats are among those threatened, and the researchers say the birth of a marsupial through IVF could become a reality within a decade.
Recapping the top story, some energy analysts have believed President Cyril Ramaphosa is likely to announce government's plans to mitigate rolling blackouts when he delivers the State of the Nation address this evening. I am Mondelambana for SFM News headlines at 11:30.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation. SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Thursday, 6th of February, deliver the 2025 State of the Nation Address at the Cape Town City Hall. Tune in to the meeting point with Koketso Sachane with a special broadcast from 6 p.m. bringing you blow-by-blow coverage at the 2025 State of the Nation Address. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Hi, Cathy. With discussion now on municipalities, and a gentleman says about changing the model, changing the structure. You can change all the models. You can make it fancy. You can make it everything nice. The issue here is competency. And the capacity what we're referring to, how we build our capacity within our municipalities, professionalism. That is the issue. Corruption, you know, the amount of corruption in the municipalities, Cathy, it's unbearable. I mean, if you have qualified people, they can do with less a lot. But we don't have that. That's the main issue. Not models, not structures, competency. Thank you.
Hi, this is Shomuga in Pietermaritzburg. What I like the president must say today is that all the private companies working under municipalities here in South Africa must be stopped. And all the workers that are privately at the municipalities must be insourced, especially at Ethekwini Municipality and the Msunduzi Municipality. All the private employees are working without a contract. I thank you.
Cathy, please tell me, have people gotten used to the poverty? Have people gotten used to the poverty that they keep voting the same managers, the same parties to run the municipalities? So that we can blame everyone else, but I think we need to blame ourselves because we voted those people, even knowing what they are capable of, even knowing their track record that they are corrupt. No, I think the voters only got themselves to blame. We need to vote for change, and I hope our people are going to start doing that. Vince Cape Town.
Cathy, we're going to hear tonight from the president a series of promises. He's now a mystery. You know, promises, Rama promises. Yeah, we're sick and tired. Yesterday I heard people talking about the national dialogue in the pipeline. We don't need another dialogue, Cathy. We dialogued enough during CODESA, and we ushered in the new dispensation, and we said to these people, we're giving you the mandate, run the country properly. They started to misrule from day one. And today they're talking about the dialogue.
Good morning, Cathy. You're speaking to Anonymous here from Cape Town. I would like the president to consider two things. Number one is to bring the retirement age down from 60 to 55. That means that people will leave the job market earlier, and it will also create jobs. Number two is the president must speak to the Minister of Finance to consider increasing the Defense Force budget so that we can be up to date with the latest developments and technologies within the Defense Force. The last couple of days, people have been questioning the Defense Force capability, and I think That will help us to build our capability so that we as a defense force can be strong to defend our nation.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
Well, let's stay with the theme of the day then, which is the State of the Nation address expected to take place later on this evening by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Let me invite then onto the show to give reflections on the one end on the state of preparedness for the State of the Nation address, and then on the other to also speak about some of the issues that the President needs to be touching on in his State of the Nation address. Let me welcome Advocate Mudibedi Pindela, who is the Secretary to the NCOP. Advocate Pindela, good morning to you.
Good morning, Cathy, and good morning to the listeners at home.
Professor Dirk Kotze is with the Department of Political Sciences at UNISA. Professor Kotze, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Tsiamo Malaji, Community Facilitator at Youth Capital. Good morning, Tsiamo.
Good morning, Cathy, and to all the listeners.
Cathy Mohlahlana is founder of One Menstruate Movement. Tracy, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having us.
So, Advocate Pindela, let me begin with you. Let's talk about the state of preparedness. It's not lost on me that we are still having a State of the Nation address that is taking place outside of Parliament. The City Hall is still housing the national, is still housing some of the activities of Parliament. Why is that still the case? Where are we in terms of either going back to Parliament, having a rebuilding of Parliament? What are the plans?
Thank you very much, Cathy. We must take into consideration that the Houses of Parliament, the National Council of Provinces and the National Assembly may determine to sit anywhere in the country, whereas the seat of Parliament is Cape Town, but the houses may determine to sit anywhere in the country. So even if when the two houses are sitting at the City Hall constitutes the precincts of Parliament, and therefore all the rules applicable to the ordinary precincts of Parliament, those rules would apply to wherever the houses sit. But perhaps the question that you are putting to me is, how far are we with the rebuilding process? We know that the National Assembly and the old Assembly buildings were destroyed by fire, and Parliament decided to rebuild those buildings. So we are in the process of rebuilding the National Assembly building as well as the old Assembly building. We hope that the rebuilding process will be concluded late next year or in the middle of next year, and then we can revert to the usual sitting or to the usual houses where the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces used to sit. So we hope that in the year's time at least we will be back to the normal houses of Parliament, and in particular the National Assembly chamber. Thank you very much.
So if I hear you correctly, Advocate Pindela, it could well be only in 2027 that we see the State of the Nation address held in what would be the rebuilt old building of Parliament.
Well, Cathy, perhaps, yes, but we hope that the rebuilding process will be concluded at least next year. But perhaps just to be safe, 2027, I think we will see the State of the Nation address taking place in the chamber in the ordinary precincts of Parliament.
And any particular reason why it's taking so long to rebuild? Again, this is not a topic that we speak about often, but maybe you can offer us some insights into what has gone into the process.
Perhaps at the time when the fire destroyed the buildings, we took it for granted that the damage was not that huge. But if one goes into the buildings, you would see the extent of the damage. It was not only the damage by the fire, but also by the water which was used there to extinguish the fire. So the damage was not as visible to a naked eye as we thought it was. So it is because of that perhaps the rebuilding process is would take this longer time.
From a logistics point of view, the use of the City Hall in Cape Town seems to, of course, be the stable plan and stable host now for the State of the Nation address. It's about the third year that it's being held there. I think you've been able to lock down a lot of the logistics, not quite as stressful as it was the first time.
Yeah, I think we know the terrain better now. We know the City Hall better now, so it's not as difficult as it was at the beginning. You can see that by now we have finalized all the logistical arrangements. We are ready. We're just waiting for the president to take the podium and address the nation.
Anything different in terms of how things are going to run at SONA tonight? Any difference in terms of the seating arrangements? We know, of course, that this is going to be the first State of the Nation address under Government of National Unity. Speak to me tell me if it has any implications really for how things are going to be done.
Well, there's nothing different from things that the city hall is not like it's not like an ordinary chamber where you have different different parties sitting on different ends of the house. But in this instance, you have everybody on the same floor. You have everybody facing the same direction. You don't have in the ordinary parliamentary practice where you would say that the opposition is sitting opposite the ruling party and so on and so on. We will have the ordinary sitting arrangements that we normally have in the City Hall.
All right, let me move on then and bring in Professor Dirk Coetzee. So nothing changes in as far as the logistics are concerned, but Prof. Coetzee, we've been told that in as far as the speech is concerned, there have been some changes because it has had to also include the input of those that are partners of this GNU. How much of a say will they really would be contributing to the State of the Nation address? I mean, would it be enough for us to hear anything radically different than what we've heard before? Professor Coetzee?
Yes, good morning.
Yes, there you are.
Yes, I think what we've seen since the 8th of January statement by the ANC, which was the and then the Cabinet Lekgotla, especially the Cabinet Lekgotla, was the opportunity for the ministers and deputy ministers and DGs and everyone into the process of preparing the SONA address. So the opportunity was there for there. We must also take into account that the Government of National Unity ministers have met and know each other now for quite a number of months already. So it's not as if they come completely from the outside in order to give their inputs for the SONA address. So I think it is certainly it's part of the overall arching discussions that happened in Cabinet already. The different individual departments, what they have planned since last year already. The planning for the budget that to a large extent has been already completed. That included or it provides the background for the SONA address. So I think there's quite a number of processes. It's not something which is purely in the hands of the president in the past or now, but it is the outcome of quite a comprehensive process.
Prof, how are you expecting the president to deal with announcements that would stem out of very significant legislation that has been passed? I'm talking here the Bella Bill, I'm talking the NHI, I'm talking about the Expropriation Act. How do you expect those to find resonance in terms of informing government policy and some key decisions around what programs government is going to be undertaking?
Yes, I think when it comes to these legislation or policy positions of the government, to a large extent they have already been established. There's very little more that must be announced. They have been signed by the president, so they are now officially legislation. It is now in the hands of the government and parliament to implement them in its different forms. So I don't expect that President Ramaphosa are going to talk a lot in detail about them tonight. I think he will recap what has happened, that he has gone through these different processes, and that it is now part of the government's agenda for the coming year, and actually for the 4 years that's more than 4 years that's still left of this administration. I think the one thing one should always understand is that the SONA address is not one where there's many announcements made. It also doesn't deal with detail. It doesn't deal with timelines. It's always criticized for that by the opposition as well as the media, that these things don't appear in it, but that's what it is. The SONA addresses of the past and in the future are not meant to be. It's more about the overview and integrating the different components of what is in the pipeline or what are ongoing processes. In the past, very often, the first part of such an address was actually an assessment of the previous year. And I think we can will see some of it, maybe not as much as President Mbeki and President Zuma did, but still, there will be an assessment, and based on that, then the forthcoming projects or forthcoming policy initiatives that the government will be continuing with, or where they want to introduce more specific components of that. So I think we should not have unrealistic expectations of what might be included in such an address.
Siamo, speaking about expectations, what are yours?
Just two things we'd like to see. The first is more long-term funding commitments, which are not promises. It's actual commitment to funding job creation programs, such as the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program, the National Youth Service, and the Basic Education Employment Initiative. And the second thing we'd like to see is evidence that these programs are going to have adequate capacity for the implementation to work, which includes monitoring and evaluation and ensuring that there's actual allocation of money. Last year, the Basic Education Employment Initiative did not have money allocated to it, and so the 200,000 job opportunities that it could have been created did not end up being created. So there needs to be accountability to explain why this did not happen, and more importantly, how that mistake won't be made again. There will be allocation of funds, there will be the capacitation of bodies such as NSFAS, the National Youth Development Agency, and other job creation programs that benefit young people. Those are the two most important things we're expecting to hear.
Tracy, your expectations?
So our expectations for the upcoming SONA, which we have formally sent an appeal to the President and the GNU, we are urging them to prioritize, the eradication of period poverty in South Africa by publicly committing to making menstrual products free for all, meaning they need to introduce what we call menstrual health equity bill, which will govern how will that process, take place. So for today, we just want them to publicly commit to eradicating period poverty in South Africa. Then the second one is for them to also enforce transparency and accountability in the implementation of the Sanitary Dignity Program, which is governed by the Sanitary Dignity Framework Policy, which sits within the Department of Women. The reason why we're calling for this is because period poverty is always seen as an issue that is isolated, and in reality it is not, right? It is an issue that affects millions of citizens in South Africa, especially school-going menstruators. So we think it is time for, government, especially through the President and GNU, to commit to eradicating period poverty once and for all, because we can't have people menstruating with no dignity in 2025.
When we think about how that hall is going to be constituted tonight, Professor Dirk Coetzee, we cannot deny the fact that we are going to have a very different audience, given the fact that things politically in this country have changed significantly. What are you expecting from the MK party? We've seen that the former President Jacob Zuma is said to have confirmed his attendance. Advocate Pindela, has he confirmed? I saw a headline earlier on today that he has, that all the heads of states will be attending tonight's SONA, all the previous heads of states, that is.
That is correct, Cathy. According to the information that I have, they have confirmed. Former President Mbeki, former President Mohlahlana, former President Zuma.
Prof. Coetzee, how is that likely to play out as a dynamic in the State of the Nation address? And I'm saying it because previously, of course, we've seen what has happened with the EFF, and they've sort of taken a more quiet role, for lack of a better phrase. Are you expecting that the MK party might be those that are rebel-rousing, if there is going to be any rebel-rousing?
Yes, it's an interesting question, this. So far, the MK party hasn't done something like that. They try to distinguish themselves, I would say, from the EFF. So in all for example, the opening of Parliament last year, which is not anymore called the SONA, the second SONA, they didn't do something like that. At the time of the budget speech, all sorts of events, they didn't do it. So I think they want to refrain from copying what the EFF has done in the past. Their focus is more on the debate, on putting their views forward, and not so much the physical demonstrations. So I don't expect that. I think that the city council itself is not really conducive for that. It looks like an old school hall, where there's very little space for this, and everyone looks to the front. It's not like a circle type or a semicircle form like the parliamentary structure was, which is more conducive for engagement with the speakers. So I don't expect anything. We must also remember there's going to be no discussions. This is simply a session where the President presents the SONA address, and afterwards the session is closed. So it's only after later in this week that the debate will take place. And I think this is when we will see the different parties, including the MK party, the EFF, and other opposition parties, as well as members of the Government of National Unity, who will become very directly engaged. And President Ramaphosa is expected to attend all of these sessions. So there will be ample time for interaction between the parties and the President.
All right, we're going to continue the conversation shortly. It's time for your latest headlines.
News headlines on SAFM. I am Lambana and a very good morning. The private prosecution matter against President Cyril Ramaphosa by former President Jacob Zuma has been removed from the role in the High Court in Johannesburg. Some energy analysts believe President Cyril Ramaphosa is likely to announce government's plans to mitigate rolling blackouts when he delivers the State of the Nation address this evening. And a 30-year-old farmer is expected to appear in the Secunda Magistrates Court in Mpumalanga today for allegedly redistributing expired food products. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons, right here on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide, with me, KG Mweketi.
The year has kicked off, and if you're like most people, you've spent more time researching resolutions than actually starting. Gym, meal prep, meditation, still deciding. Luckily, getting your car covered online with Santam is faster than picking a resolution to stick to. It only takes 2 minutes. To switch, visit santam.co.za. Santam, this is freedom.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Hi, Cathy. We are here in Mohlahlana. Can you please ask your guest why are they paying for people to attend, working people to attend the opening of the parliament? Why are premiers and the MPs not paying for themselves and using taxpayers' money? They are working. Why should they be given a privilege to just travel free and sleep in the hotels for free while they are working? Why are they doing that? Yeah, in some countries you can understand, they are well-developed countries, but we are struggling with a lot. Water and whatever, that money can be redirected to do those kind of things.
Good morning, Sis Cathy. Thank you for a wonderful show as usual. I just want to touch on the issue of the State of the Nation address that's coming out tonight. As a 36-year-old in this country, I feel like I'm part of the forgotten group. There's a group that has been forgotten. Government cuts you off at 35 for opportunities. So from 36, you'll figure it out. They cut you off and then that's it. What is the reasoning behind that? And is there anything that is really being done to address the issue of unemployment when it comes to people that are above 35 years old? I am so hurt by this issue, especially when I look at the age group of people in parliament. Our leaders in parliament are way above this age. So I've never really understood the reasoning behind it, and I continue to not understand why it's something that is not even looked at. We have forgotten. I wonder what will be done about us. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Anita and Polokwane.
All right, thanks for those WhatsApp voice notes. Advocate Pindela, let me give you a chance to answer the first question, and then I'll bring in Tsiamo and Tracy on what Anita has had to say.
What is the question?
The question is why is Parliament flying in premiers and people that are working, that earn salaries, instead of these people having that apportioned to themselves as a personal cost because this is a work commitment?
Yes, indeed, it's a work commitment. The premiers are acting within their official capacity. They are attending in their capacities as premiers and not as individuals. I assume that other individuals, if I were to attend the State of the Nation address in my personal capacity, I would pay for myself. I would not expect the employer to pay for me. But if the employer wants me to attend a meeting in my official capacity as a secretary to the National Council of Provinces, then in the ordinary course of events, the employer bears the costs.
I guess what the listener is asking is that do we not have a double billing where Parliament foots part of that bill, and then you're also going to have claims that are coming out of the provincial coffers for these premiers too?
Well, you would understand that Parliament would only pay for the event. It does not pay for the premiers to attend. It does not carry the costs of the premiers to attend the State of the Nation address. It is their provincial governments that carry their costs because they are attending in their official capacities. Parliament does not pay for their costs, for their traveling costs, for their accommodation, and so.
Thanks for that clarity. Tsiamo, I want you to respond and add on to what Anita has said. The fact that the face of Parliament is largely males close on or above the age of 60, and the impact of that on young people.
Yeah, we definitely need more youth representation in leadership, which is why it's good that the National Youth Development Agency has amended its protocols to have young people between the ages of 18 and 35 actually serve on the board. And they're currently going through the process now to appoint actual youth to be on the board of the NYDA. But I want to touch on something else Anita mentioned, which is that they're now 36 years old, but they can no longer benefit from government programs which target young people. How these programs are supposed to work, and which is why we're calling for greater capacity, is a young person is meant to go through a first-time work opportunity or work-based experience opportunity and develop the capacity and skills to get a job after that. We saw that during the Basic Employment Education Initiative, where teaching assistants were hired, 200,000 of them across the country, and many of those young people were able to create work opportunities after that program had ended, because that is a short-term program, and the following year they're going to hire different people under that program, so you can't benefit from the program permanently. If these programs work, then by the time you're 56 years old, you shouldn't need the programs anymore. That's the logic behind the programs, but that is not what's happening because these institutions are not adequately being capacitated. So it shouldn't be the case that 56-year-olds are stuck in some missing middle where they can no longer get support. By the time you're that age, you should have already received the support, which is why we're calling for the government to capacitate and to fund these programs.
Tracy?
I think I'm captured by Tsiamo. Unemployment is not my expertise, in my area of expertise. But what I'll say is that it is important for us to also think about how do we educate young people in this country, especially within basic and higher education. Because sometimes, we find ourselves going through the system up until maybe university. Then post that you struggle to get a job, and you also struggle to create something for yourself. So I'll say that we also need to rethink. We need to look at whether is our education system matching our reality today. And if it doesn't match our reality, what are we doing about it to ensure that young people are able to create jobs themselves through whatever skills development that they are exposed to in their community?
Prof. Dirk Kotze, how much of an emphasis, again, can we expect to see when it comes to the plight of young people in this country? It's been spoken about year on year. There have been commitments from the 1 million jobs to, it evolving to job opportunities, commitments around creating job opportunities for young people. And yet we sit with an ever-growing, ever-expanding unemployment rate.
Yes, I think this is possibly the biggest issue for the government and for many South Africans is how to break this logjam that exists for many years already. Because there is certainly a disproportional component of our society who are not well enough educated and qualified, and at the same time also don't receive, or there's not enough employment opportunities for them. So it is, on paper, when government members speak, it is one of their key priorities. I think, as we've heard now again from the callers, that they feel frustrated because they don't see tangible results. There's not major changes. There's not movement that's taking place. It says, well, there's some improvement or it's going in a different direction. I think there's a number of, I would say, systemic or structural problems that are very difficult to change. And it is not only government that can do that. I think one of the key components is that, yes, the pass rate of the matrics last year was very high, but it does not reflect how many persons have dropped out over the 12 years up to that point. So there are many people in South Africa who simply don't have a matric, and if you don't have a matric, you have very little chance of any form of employment except for the lowest of low categories, which are in any case unsustainable. So I personally, coming or being at the university, will put much more emphasis on the training component of it. And not only university training, but training of diverse type of options that must exist, all sorts of different colleges, whether it is teacher training colleges, nursing colleges, technical colleges, or other forms. The TVET colleges are there, but that can't make that breakthrough for various reasons, but they don't fill that gap or that need that exists at the moment. And that for me is the golden bullet that must be attached. All the societies that I can think of that really solved this problem started at the bottom, and that is with education and training. Once that is in place, then the others become much easier. But if you are not prepared for anything, it's very difficult to become employable. And I think this is where we are at this point in time.
All right, as we get ready to round the conversation up then, Advocate Pindela, I have to talk to you about matters of security and what the arrangements are, at least to the extent that you can share where security is concerned for today.
Well, there are no extraordinary measures that we have taken insofar as that Parliament has taken insofar as security is concerned. The ordinary measures would be applicable, and in the House, the ordinary rules, the joint rules would be applicable. The presiding officers will apply the rules. The presiding officers will enforce the rules. So there's no need to take any extraordinary measures.
Let me thank you for your time and your contribution to this conversation. Advocate Modibedi Pindela, Secretary to the NCOP. And then I want to bring in just 2 voice notes before I wrap it up with Prof. Kosa and our other guests.
Good morning, Sis Cathy Trevor here from the Eastern Cape. Sis Cathy, I just hope the President don't come with a lot of promises again and he just start to execute. Sign executive orders. He has the power. He must make use of it. Like President Donald Trump is making use of it to embetter his country. Thank you.
Hello, Cathy. You and your guest there, you did not answer Anita's concern. She said that there are 60-year-olds in Parliament and all that, but government has got this policy that if you are over the age of 35, you can't be employed in government. If you go to government and you apply for a job there at the age of above the age of 35, they don't consider you for anything. She's not talking about internships or things like that. She's doing basic jobs. There are departments with policies like that. No over 35s.
Good morning, Cathy. What this gentleman is saying is far away from the truth. There is a money allocated for members of parliament for their accommodation and traveling whenever there is a sitting. Either way, even if the premiers are moving from their different offices or different regions, at the end of it all, the government is footing their payment, is paying for them to travel to sauna, and they even pay their accommodation, their meals. As we speak, municipality doesn't have petrol or diesel to put in their trucks to collect rubbish. Correctional services doesn't have money to take offenders to court because there's no diesel to put in their respective cars. Other departments, they don't have money. my premiums and their travel at the government expenses to the SONA. Officially, that gentleman is not telling the truth. Even if they can be paid by government. At the end of it all, it is the money of the government. It's not their money. They get salaries. They're getting over 120,000 per month. Why can't they pay themselves? So these people are just wasting time. Why can't they hold this SONA visually? Because there's no money in other departments.
Okay.
Thanks, Tony from Bloom. Thanks.
Thanks for those contributions. Prof. Kotza, your parting shot?
Yes, I think if we look at this at the event tonight, it's a very important symbolic event. It happens in most countries in the world. It's either the opening of Parliament or the statement for the coming year about what can be expected by the public and members of Parliament. And I think this is something which is very important for society, South African society in general. Unfortunately, the issues that we are listening to now again will not all be included in the speech. What is also very important is that we should not look at the speech in isolation. The coming budget, the national budget presented by the Minister of Finance, is in a sense an extension of the SONA address and will give more practical detail in terms of the financial allocations to what President Ramaphosa is going to talk about tonight. So I think one has to have a bit of a broader perspective of this. At the same time, the government is limited in terms of its resources, especially financial resources. So I think many of the expectations won't be met.
All right. Thanks for that, Prof. Kotza. Siamo, 20 seconds.
There's enough evidence to show the government can create 3 million work opportunities every year. It just needs to commit to funding these in the long term and improving the capacity for its implementation.
Thank you, Tsiamo. Tracy?
Yeah, just shortly. I think what we need to keep at the back of our minds is that achieving menstrual equity is not about access to products, not just about access to products, but it is about dismantling deep-rooted power structures that perpetuate gender inequality and marginalize menstruating individuals. So it is important for the president to really commit to eradicating period poverty in our country and ensure that there's no learners left behind just because of their periods.
Thank you all for your time this morning. That's where we leave it on the talking point. Tomorrow, I guess, we'll be reflecting on the State of the Nation address, which takes place later tonight.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Thursday, 6th of February, deliver the 2025 State of the Nation address at the Cape Town City Hall. Tune in to the meeting point with Koketso Sachane with a special broadcast from 6 p.m. bringing you blow-by-blow coverage at the 2025 State of the Nation address.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Action is getting tougher in the second half of the league. The Folks want to ease off pressure with a win, but the Eagles aim to fly with 3 points to remain in the top 5. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch Borussia Mönchengladbach FC versus Eintracht Frankfurt FC on Saturday, 8 February at 7:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere, for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Our story is a South African story.
Anchored in the belief that it takes all of us to build a country that thrives.
To educate our children for a brighter future. To care for our health and well-being.
To nurture our environment to sustain future generations and to transform and build a stronger nation.
When no one is left behind. Inspiring each other to succeed. Anglo-American. SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
The book reading. Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised. SAFM presents another episode of the book These Things Really Do Happen to Me by Kaya Dlang, read by Lerato Mvelase.
when I introduced Paul Kagame as the president of Nigeria to his face. I seem to have a skill for embarrassing myself around presidents, a skill I have unintentionally mastered. I had received an invitation from Google to interview Rwanda's president, Paul Kagame, in 2011 because I had developed a bit of a following on YouTube where I occasionally discussed politics. In fact, a few years earlier, when the then Senator Barack Obama was running to be the Democratic Party's presidential candidate, I had received an email from YouTube. Obama would be visiting their offices and they wanted YouTubers to ask him questions. I was to be one of them. My question to him started like this: Barack, is it okay if I call you Barack? He laughed. That's the important bit. The rest of the question doesn't matter as much as the fact that I made the future president of the United States laugh. Now, in 2011, I was flown to Rwanda from Johannesburg, transferring in Nairobi to Bujumbura, and then Bujumbura to Kigali. My flight from Nairobi was odd. My seat happened to be the last one that could be occupied. All the seats in the rows behind mine had all been laid flat. I paid no mind to it except that it was something I had never seen before. When we landed at Bujumbura International Airport, we did not disembark. The door at the back of the plane was opened. I heard some commotion as if people were carrying a heavy object. There was much heaving and clanking. Finally, I saw what this was. There was a bed being taken through the back of the plane. This was when I began asking myself questions. What the hell? Is that a hospital bed? No way. There's a person in it. Oh my God, there is. Is that a goddamn drip? It's a drip, and it's attached to his face. Oxygen mask. He is wearing an oxygen mask. Are they going to take him off the bed or... Oh my God. That's why these chairs are flat. They're putting the bed down on them, right behind me. The nurses, along with the stewards, fussed and strapped him up to make sure he didn't somehow fall off, which was good, because I didn't know if I had the moral fortitude to grab him and pull him up. I didn't worry too much after I saw the nurses. I wouldn't have to do anything, I reassured myself. It was not long before my false hopes were dashed, and I had another conversation with myself. No, are the nurses leaving him? They're probably going to fetch something they forgot, surely. Wait, are they closing the door without the nurses being here? They're closing the doors, and the nurses aren't here. Lord, no. The doors closed with an authoritative finality. I caught a glimpse of the man. He was wasting away. He wheezed and coughed weakly. I worried about what he might have. I mean, it's natural to wonder. I did not look back again. I remember how low and close we seemed to be flying to the mountain between Bujumbura and Rwanda. As I looked out the window, the trees seemed so close that I felt like I could have touched them. It was beautiful and mildly terrifying all at once. I remember thinking, if whatever the man behind me has doesn't kill me, a crash sure will. Needless to say, I survived. The crew didn't check on the man behind me once, but he survived the short flight too. I was relieved to get off the flight to see the cleanest city I had ever visited, Kigali. I was gobsmacked by how clean it was. Later, I met up with some people I had befriended on Twitter, and they showed me around. Everyone spoke about the 2020 vision, which was to be the Singapore of Africa. Every single citizen told me about it. When I looked at the construction, the scaffolding that was everywhere, I could see the Singapore of Africa taking shape. Every person I spoke to had a careful manner, as if they did not want to say the wrong thing. If I talked about Tutsis and Hutus, I was quickly told there were no Hutus and Tutsis, just Rwandans. There was a tension I couldn't really put my finger on. In many ways, I could understand. It was a country that had gone through the most traumatic period just 17 years prior. The following day, I was to interview President Paul Kagame at the presidential residence. I was picked up at the agreed time and on the way, noticing something I hadn't seen since apartheid South Africa. The military was patrolling the city with big guns. It was jarring and a shock to the system, taking me back to a bad time in South Africa. When I arrived at the presidential compound, lunch had been prepared. Some of the people I had been with the day before were also there. We ate and chatted. The people surrounding the president were young, and I found this satisfying. Each person I spoke to worked for the president in some capacity. I longed for the same for South Africa. No wonder Rwanda was changing at such a rapid rate. Kagame had surrounded himself with daring young people who were looking to create a future. After lunch, I was ushered to the room where the interview would be conducted. The lighting had been set up. I was told that the president would be arriving soon. People started to straighten themselves. I couldn't tell whether what I was sensing was reverence, fear, respect, or all of these. There was something in the air. When he walked in, there was absolute silence, and his staff all stood with almost military precision, even though none of them, I was sure, had been in the army. This tall, lanky man who'd entered the room seemed almost too gentle to be commanding the kind of mixed emotions I was sensing. He was brought over to me, and he shook my hand. I was casual, but respectful. He was soft-spoken, something I did not expect. I had always been under the impression that in order for one to command the kind of adoration I'd picked up on from everyone I'd spoken to here, one needed to be extroverted and imposing. Paul Kagame was more charismatic than commanding. His staff had told me not to ask him certain questions, specifically about running for another term or changing the constitution. I told him that I was here to ask questions that had been sent by YouTube viewers, and that if some of those questions included these topics, too bad. I thought about the soldiers I had seen outside, the fact that I was in a foreign country, the fact that I was not even a journalist. I was a nobody in the bigger scheme of things. Would anyone even